Hello, my name is Zach Goodrich, and I will be acting as the principal in this EDL 853 case study when a student's rights are wronged. To start, we're going to summarize some facts. Nottingham High School was built in the early 1950s. The school serves 3,200 students. The school utilized relocatable trailers to provide classroom space. Most of the building is up to code in terms of state and federal standards to accommodate individuals with disabilities. Due to the lack of funds, approximately a quarter of the high school building remains as they were when they were first built. Miguel Henderson and his family moved to Dover to attend Nottingham High School after reading about the success in the academic and football programs. To continue, Miguel is an exceptional student, teammate, friend, and football player. Miguel is paralyzed from the waist down after being tackled in a football game. After months of rehabilitation, Miguel returns to the school and discusses his plan with Miss Guzman, the school counselor, as she is informed that he will be in a wheelchair. There is a change to Miguel's academic schedule, and he is removed from one of his science classes. A meeting with Mrs. Hernandez follows the next day, as she requests Miguel be reinstated back into his biology class. Mr. Hernandez and an attorney join at the end of the meeting to discuss Miguel's special education rights. Report any legal and ethical issues. Throughout the case study, there are some possible legal actions that we can take taken against the school for not providing Miguel with the necessary services and supports. Miguel Hernandez had a life-altering injury from participating in a school activity, that being football. He was paralyzed from the waist down. The school changed Miguel's academic schedule and not informing his family at the first meeting of this consideration. Legal actions is Nottingham in violation of Individuals with Disability Education Act, uh, Americans with Disability Act, and the 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 by not providing certain services and supports to Miguel that he qualifies for. Did the school take the appropriate process when deciding on changing Miguel's schedule? That could be maybe an area of ethical issues. And then the decision could be viewed as discriminatory for removing Miguel from his biology class. To synthesize the case study, we're a dedicated school and a supportive community, that we had a family move into town that desires similar core values. Uh, the exceptional student, Miguel, has an unfortunate injury participating in school activity, and the school fails to accommodate his needs upon his return to the school building. To synthesize the facts, people involved, the principal, myself, the superintendent, Dr. Harvey, the 3,200 students, Miguel Hernandez, Miss Guzman, Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez, attorney Howard Carey, Miguel's friends and family, parent volunteers, teachers, staff, and administration. Some of the things that I would say missing from the information is out of the 3,200 students, have we never had any student with disabilities, whether that be wheelchair, the ability to just have access to classrooms, walking, ramps. Those are things where I would be interested to see if out of that many students, we haven't had to address some of these issues in the past. Is there an IEP team developed for Miguel's transition, whether that's with emotional or social relationships? Just things that would be necessary to know throughout the people involved in this transition. Place, the Dover community, very supportive. Nottingham High School, the football field, what access is there? Again, is our entire facility not up to code, or is that the quarter that was not that mentioned? And again, a quarter of the building not accessible to students with disabilities. That biology classrooms, the other science classrooms, Miss Guzman's office, the principal's office. So that would be my interest in information is: are we a two-level building? Are we a one-level building, but then the relocatable trailers are elevated from the ground just for certain foundation purposes? And so those are things that I would want to figure out before making decisions of having a student removed from a class. And going back to the people, is there a facilities director, a maintenance crew? Are there individuals there that could be in house to help make these issues less of an issue that we can correct in house? Programs, wonderful working relationship, parent volunteers. So we have all the programs at the school. Programs provided to students at 6 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, one high school, successful academic and football programs. Probably the thing that I would be interested in, do we have a special education program within our school with that many students, or a special education department that could help us um, tackle some of the difficulties of our building, thinking of things that we may not be thinking about as the administration, but should be thinking about. To review and prioritize the information. Uh, Again, could the conflict in the situation or decision be damaging to stakeholders or to the community? I believe yes. Our school could face legal actions for not providing adequate service and support to Miguel with his disability. And where are we as a school and education? Are we putting the student first? And whether that student has disabilities or not, we want to make sure we provide the best of services, education and emotionally, and and just with us focusing on the student's well-being. What individuals and groups have an important stake in the outcome? The superintendent, myself, Ms. Guzman, Miguel, the Hernandezes, staff, student body, community, and the attorney. We all want to see the best for Miguel. We all want to see the best for all of our students. And so just handling this scenario with the approach of we want to be better the next time a scenario arises similar to this one, or if anything else arises, we have the ability to fully commit to what our goal is, and that's giving students the best chance to reach their potential. Have all the relevant stakeholders been consulted? There has been conversation between the Hernandezes, myself, Ms. Guzman, but the detail of who greenlighted Ms. Guzman to change Miguel's academic schedule, I would say that information is not provided, or if she does have the sole authority to make those changes on her own. Communication with facilities and maintenance about access to classrooms and special education department. Uh, as I mentioned before, is there anything we can do in house to provide uh, more access to classrooms or general areas that Miguel would have to use, whether that be the restroom, the learning center, the other classrooms. And so those are things we'd want to make sure we're addressing. Can I learn more about this situation? Absolutely. I can learn more about the details of Miss Guzman's conversation with Miguel. Did she ever mention to him uh, the consideration of finding a different class, or getting the parents involved to to see if that is even an option that they're interested in? Communicate with teachers involved in those classes to see if we can make any adjustments and help Miguel's return be uh, welcoming, and that we still hope that he can bring the joy that he brought as when he was uh, before his injury. Do I have enough to make a decision, information to make a decision? Not quite. Not enough information on the facility, and need to have conversation with Ms. Guzman how she came to the conclusion of switching the science class, and was it the only resolution we had for him, or could we again make some adjustments to classes, locations, using technology and things like that? Identify your options and possible consequences. What could I do in this situation? The first thing I would do is communicate with all the parties involved. After meeting with the Hernandez family and their attorney, I would communicate with Miss Guzman and ask her how she came to the conclusion of moving Miguel to a different class, and who all did she communicate with to proceed with the move. Secondly, I would talk with our facilities and maintenance personnel to see if there are any in-house adjustments we can do to make the biology classroom accessible for Miguel. That would be a goal of mine to start in-house. And I believe in my recent experience at the current school I am, we have made adjustments to our facility to allow students with disabilities to be able to access different classrooms within our building at Elyria. The goal would be to collect as much information as possible, collaborate with all stakeholders, and make a sound decision to ensure Miguel's current and future success and well being, while making sure our building is following special education laws and regulations. Evaluate pros and cons. The pros: Miguel is back in our school building and in good spirits. Uh, it would be a disservice if he was back and we didn't provide the same care and nurturing we did prior to his his new normal of being in a wheelchair. So we want to make sure the pros are he's back and he feels like he's important and valued without the football and the other things that we sometimes associate with our students. The building up to code and classrooms are all accessible. That would be a huge pro, whether we do it in house or make the necessary purchase of providing ramps or uh, lifts in our building. Better decision making process for situation regarding students' academic status, putting in procedures, how we allow our school counselor to decide, is that on her own or does she get an administrator involved and they both sign off on it? Teachers' investment in helping with the process, teachers getting involved. Again, we all want to go the extra mile, and so just getting their input on what they have seen that could be helpful to that. And then the important one is avoiding legal actions. The cons, legal action against the school. Ms. Guzman upset with change to her decision because maybe she has the authority, and we as administration don't always want to overstep or micromanage. Negative PR for the school. Is it something that, do we not provide quality education for students with disabilities? Um, the Hernandez continued onslaught for taking an opportunity away from Miguel. He's an exceptional student first, and he was always there to encourage his classmates. And so, are we taking away an opportunity for him to be with those that he has been with throughout his education career? Additional work for facilities and maintenance. The cost to update the building. There's always a cost to um, improve facilities, and are we willing to make those purchases to make our building more accessible to any individual with disabilities? Choose your best option. Uh, we start from the top and work our way down. Is Miguel our first student in a wheelchair to go through our building? If he is, and then now we can address those issues. If he isn't, then why didn't we address those issues when that time was there? Do we have the ability to address the accessibility to the biology classroom in house and stay within code? For me, that is an area that, again, are we a one level building, two level building, one level building with elevated uh, relocatable trailers? It's just where is that information that we can maybe provide our students with these resources with our current people that are in our maintenance department, our facilities department. We will discuss with all appropriate school stakeholders how we will proceed to support students with disabilities and provide adequate educational opportunities. Again, we want to make sure that if a similar scenario arises or a different one, we want to make sure we're prepared. Putting in place communication protocols and seeking wisdom on final decisions. I think it's always important to find guidance, whether that's through another school counselor, another administrator, a nearby school, just to bounce ideas off each other. We will provide teachers and teachers' aides and staff with training to support and assist students with disabilities and learning experiences. And then finally, develop and or monitor any IEP that may be added to Miguel's learning journey. Imagine implementing your decision. We would use our in-house resources to provide Miguel an opportunity to remain in the biology class. We would communicate with his parents and attorney the rights Miguel is entitled to during this journey and get them connected with services that are available to them within and are outside our school building. If there are changes that need to be considered, we would visit with the Hernandez family and discuss some alternatives that are available. We would be upfront and honest that we will do our best to provide a quality education to Miguel and to all of our students. Allow them to be a part of the decision making process, because I think that is something that we could ease the upset or discouraged mindset of we just don't want Miguel to feel like he's put on the back burner. And we want to see Miguel succeed currently and in the future. The questions: what should have been done prior to Miguel's return to the school to ensure that his rights were upheld? After that meeting, we should have evaluated our ability to provide adequate access to the classrooms, reviewed our academic responsibility to the Hernandez family, and communicate with all teachers any additional accommodations needed for Miguel. Should have identified supports and resources to address prior to the meeting with the Hernandez family and Ms. Guzman, and also making sure that we were meeting the state and federal standards for special education students with disabilities. How could the situation involving Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez and Miguel's attorney been avoided? Over communicate and communicate up front. When the Hernandez family mentioned to us Miguel will be back in a wheelchair, we should have discussed potential challenges and alternative options if we believed there was a concern. It is better to have the parents involved up front and let them be a part of the deciding what's best for Miguel's education. Between these next four questions, um, depending on the services, supports, and scenario, Miguel would qualify for service and supports through the laws stated above. Uh, yes, the parent should be providing information to what is available to Miguel, and he has rights too. As an administrator, we would seek guidance to point the Hernandez family in the right direction to learn more about special education law and regulation. And that, to me, is something that you would want to do because they would want to have the opportunity to learn more of their situation and where they could give Miguel the best benefit. And if that's at our school or somewhere else, we want to make sure that we provide them with those resources. With Nottingham High School, the opposing team's football player or any other individual or agency be responsible for Miguel's injury as it relates to financial compensation for costs related to his injury and rehabilitation. Nottingham, if similar to Acacia guidelines, have the ability to purchase resources from membership with the association. Catastrophe plan with basic catastrophe accident medical policy. There are guidelines to follow and helpful to students that participate in case activity. If there is an incident or an accident, they are able to utilize those resources, especially for something like this. There's resources available within the school and the membership of the organization. No to the opposing player and the other individual agencies. Who would you contact following the meeting with Miguel's parents and his attorney? First, our superintendent to discuss the conversation with the Hernandez family and see, if we need to get in contact with our school legal team. Second, I would visit with Ms. Guzman to collaborate and discuss some alternatives before deciding to move Miguel from the biology class. Is there something that we can focus on and be able to get him the access he needs to get into that class and stay in that class? We would connect with our legal team to review our policies, responsibilities to students with disabilities, and making sure we are meeting the standards. Get in contact with facilities and maintenance department to see if we have the resources to provide adequate access to classes, bathrooms, offices, and just in general, the places that Miguel will need to go. Would you meet with Ms. Guzman to discuss the situation? Yes, we would have a conversation about how she came to the conclusion of moving Miguel to a different class. That is what I keep coming back to, as we had some similar situations at our school, and it's just one of those areas where it is always good to seek a different perspective and see if there's anything that either administration or another school counselor has had a similar situation and addressed it in a way that would not lead to this concern we're in right now. Some questions we would want to address is, did we discuss this change with any administration or observe any alternatives to accommodate his access to the classroom? The advice I would provide is making sure she collaborates with the necessary stakeholders before making a final decision and communicate with the family up front about the decision and explain her reasoning behind it. Do you believe that you can come to some agreement with Miguel, his parents, and attorney regarding the solution to this problem? Yes. I think first and foremost, we would let them know that we are supporters of Miguel and we want to see him do well. Um, we want to let them know that their best is our best. We want to provide Miguel with the best opportunity to find success currently and in the future. So we would allow Miguel to stay in the biology class because we would observe our facility and see if we can make alterations to the building in order to make the classroom more accessible. Um, it does not mention again any two-story levels and can we provide routes to classes he currently is in the future. Uh, it's one of those that if we needed to use other options, we could use technology and have him video into the class. We've had that with some of our students that are at our school right now at Elyria, or do an independent study. He's still taking biology, and we want him with his classmates. But if it was the biology class that we kind of have got as into this conversation, then we would make sure that there's alternatives that they can consider. Again, there would be a lot of brainstorming to help get this situation corrected. Uh, and with this being the last of my slide, I think for me, just going through this case study as administrator, we would just make sure to be focused on the student, and as we would all our students, And do we have the ability and resources to give him the quality education that his parents desires, that we have been there has been articles about our academic programs, and so we just want to continue that because we want to hold excellence in everything we do. And so for Miguel, we would just make sure that his well-being, his social and emotional uh, state is moving in the right direction, as his life has changed significantly with the injury. And so we would just be, as an administration, focused on getting him on track and finding the ability to connect with his peers and his pursuance of where he wanted to go. So thank you for listening, and appreciate your time.